Energy Media readers, we've done a lot of reporting lately on electric car batteries, and battery storage is really key to the energy transition. It's really key to the cost-effective adoption of wind, solar, and other low-carbon technologies, and electric vehicles. That is the heart of an EV. So today, to talk to us about a recent study that she completed is Maria Chavez with Navigant Research in the US. And so, Maria, welcome to the interview.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you give us a brief overview of your study, please?
Sure. So this first quarter of the year, we published a new report on electric vehicle batteries, in which we study the market for electric vehicle batteries within segments of passenger and commercial vehicles, and also ranging from hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and complete battery electric vehicles. And we're mostly measuring forecasts for pricing per kilowatt hour of battery packs, and also total capacity for global markets, and also revenue.
Well, so let's get into some of the numbers. What are we looking at in terms of price per kilowatt hour, keeping in mind that $100 per kilowatt hour is generally considered the threshold for EVs to be sticker price competitive with gasoline-powered cars?
Sure. So yeah, that's a good point to keep in mind. That threshold is the goal for a lot of automakers and battery makers. And I should keep in mind that these forecasts are based on pack prices, not cell prices. But we're looking at that $100 threshold for battery packs at around mid-decade, 2025, 2026.
Right, and cell prices are, I think you were saying, 65% lower than pack prices, correct?
That's correct.
Right, and so what are we talking about in terms of ramping up capacity and the effect that that's going to have on battery prices and EV adoption?
Sure. So mostly I think the best approach is to look at passenger all-electric vehicles, because they're going to take up the biggest share of capacity in the next coming decade. And the driver there is technological innovations, basically increasing the capacity, but also increasing the energy density, which allows us to keep the packs small, and more versatility with different vehicles, so that we're not just putting huge packs into trucks and SUVs, but also just smaller light-duty vehicles.
Sure. Now, GM announced its Lithium platform and battery last week and caused a big stir in the EV world. And it looks like at least their premium vehicles are going to get around 400 miles, so 650 to 700 kilometers. And I wonder if now that we've achieved that level, that threshold, if we really don't need much more than that.
I mean, that's an interesting question. We've talked about that threshold for a while, so it'll be interesting to see, once we actually arrive at that point, what the demand will be for a longer range. I think everyone is always looking to, especially in North America with long drives, consumers are always demanding a longer range, and range anxiety is one of the biggest reasons that they might consider not buying an electric vehicle. I think we have to get to that point first to see where consumers are reacting, and obviously price is going to be a big driver.
It seems to me that the 2020s are going to be a period of intense innovation that's going to sort of drive up EV adoption quite rapidly. In fact, I'm fond of saying to my readers that, the 2020s, buckle up, because it's going to be a wild decade. Would you agree with that?
I would. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of reports of automakers that are totally all in on their electric vehicle lines now. And not only that, but they want to be the ones to introduce a new battery chemistry, a longer range capacity for vehicles. And so we're seeing a lot of innovations that aren't just sort of sticking to the status quo, but are pushing the limits. So GM with their Lithium battery, also a lot of automakers that are promising some new innovations with solid state batteries, which is something that we haven't really seen in the market. But there might be a lot of news there, mid-decade.
And I think that's a very interesting point about increasing manufacturing capacity and automakers being all in. I think when people were doing their calculations and their forecasts around peak oil demand, for instance, and transportation fuels, they thought the change would be more gradual, but it really seems like the companies are getting very, very aggressive on this.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that comes down to visibility and also competition. Nobody kind of wants to be behind the curve on that. Nobody wants to be the last to adopt a technology that is being now widely adopted, and with bigger range and more capacity for versatile vehicles, people are jumping on board. They don't really see a reason not to, I think.
Was there anything startling that you found in your study that you hadn't expected?
I guess, I mean, I just mentioned solid state battery technology, which is still looking like it's maybe a little too expensive to bring about something to market, in the next couple of years. But there seem to be a lot of automakers that are telling us that in the next couple of years they plan on introducing their plans or unveiling their technology. So I think it'll be fun to see how they compete with each other and how they introduce this technology to consumers, because there is sort of a barrier there for understanding what makes this battery better than our traditional lithium-ion batteries that we've grown used to.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was reading a study about a month ago where the authors thought that solid state would be one of the key technologies that drives down the cost of batteries to $50 a kilowatt hour by 2030. And even they, just that they were writing it 3 months ago, were thinking that solid state was coming along in the latter part of the 2020s, but now it looks like it's going to be here sooner than that.
Yeah, and I don't want to anticipate anything too early on. I think I'm excited to see how the automakers plan to bring this to market. But I think I'm still going to hold my breath on anything concrete. Maybe at the middle of the decade to see how they're unveiling and rolling that out.
Well, it's fascinating times, and they're coming at us fast and furious. So we'll look forward to chatting with you in the future, Maria. Thank you very much for doing this today.
Thank you so much.